Hello everyone, welcome to a new video on the channel. Today we are back in the giveaway journal and we're working on the Book Shelfie together. This is a slightly longer video than some of the other giveaway journal videos. So if you want to get yourself a drink, some food, some snacks, maybe put me on in the background while you're doing some chores, I don't know, feel free to sort of move around. Because we are going to have to figure out some things along the way here. This was a plan that I had in my mind, that I knew what I wanted to do for this particular spread, but it did take a little bit more thinking power than I possibly had on the day that I did it. And it just, I fumble through it a little bit, as you'll get to see in a moment. So this journal is being given away once it is completed. I am very excited about this project, but also I find it very daunting because I am working on something that's not for myself. And I constantly am, I wouldn't say fearing, but just worrying about my creative control in this project not aligning with someone who perhaps will get it. And obviously I would like to hope that people who are applying for the giveaway at the end of this journal will be looking at what I've done and then obviously applying and going, well, that's something I can work with. So yeah, that is the goal for this journal. I was very kindly sent this journal from 𝓘𝓽𝓮𝓮. It is an A5 notebook, dot grid notebook, and it is called the Vintage Gold in Emerald Green. And I will have it linked below, as well as my code with 𝓘𝓽𝓮𝓮 in case you want to pick up a journal for yourself. I know that it seems a little bit early to be thinking about 2027 journals, but in the reality of how this year has already gone speeding by, I would recommend that perhaps you start at least looking for a journal if you haven't got one lined up already. So I am actually feeling the crunch already. I know that I'll have multiple journals to set up as usual. And then adding in the giveaway journal has obviously meant that I've started a lot earlier in the year, but I will let you know that I have actually started to shop for my personal journal. I've decided on which one I'm going to be using next year. I have started getting supplies together. Some came in the mail today, which I was very excited about, and then realized that I did not have at all what I was looking for. And so I went on to Etsy and found some digital paper files and all that stuff today. So I'm feeling a little bit more confident about going into my own personal journey with my own reading journal for later in the year. I'm expecting to start in July because I really need to get ahead this year with how many journals I end up setting up. You can see I am struggling on screen right now simply because I just did not know how I wanted this to go. My initial plan was that for this book shelfie was a floating Dutch door, so that meant that I took the top and bottom off as you saw me doing just before, and also having a tab system down the side there so I can sort of connect all the trackers together using tabs down the side. And then I also want to have this paper that you can see that I'm working with now sort of frame the bookshelves. So this is I've heard people calling it like the wallpaper of the book shelfie room, which I think is kind of cool. And what I initially wanted to do was cut out the middle and then just stick it all down as one piece. Now, what would have been smarter for me in this project was to simply take some paper from the back of this journal, cut out the middle portion of this particular 2-page Dutch door sort of spread and stick it down on top of this paper and just stick this all as one piece onto the journal. However, I decided to go the most possibly the longest route and really spent a lot of time looking at this. You're seeing right now how I'm counting everything out. It's not adding up. How I'm turning the book 50 million times over. So it was a lot of sort of brain power. Perhaps I didn't have the clarity that I would have preferred to have on this day to be working on it, but I did enjoy the process. I was listening to an audiobook at the same time. Maybe that was also adding into it a little bit of stress because I was listening to a thriller. And I don't normally listen to thrillers, or it's not a genre that I've ever explored because it's never interested me. So I was listening to A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson, which a friend recommended that I would probably like as a first sort of introduction to the genre. And I was kind of getting stressed with how the main protagonist kept throwing herself into really ridiculous situations throughout the book. So perhaps that was adding into my little bit of frustration with this page and how it wasn't working. As you can see, I gave up and cut it in half, and then I'm just going to mark out what I needed to cut off. As you can see, it would have been perfect if I just sort of stuck that down, if you get what I mean, and had that on top, but never mind. We learn from our mistakes, and if you're going to set up one of these, I highly recommend you just take a piece of paper at two pages from the back of your journal that perhaps link together, and then just stick them in, because it was quite the headache. But I do have some workarounds for this project as well in a minute, because we did cut right close to the binding, and I don't think this would ever fall apart, but I was a bit nervous because this was on where the binding is showing in the middle of the book, so I did want to just protect that a little bit, and I do stick down some sticker paper. But like I was mentioning before around journaling, I am very conscious about the fact that it's almost June, which means we're almost midway into this year, and I need to not only finish this journal and get it sent off so the potential winner can get ready for the new year later on. I'm hoping to send it off around September at the latest, but then I've also got my own journals to work on. So yeah, it is starting to feel a little bit like crunch time. I wanted to start my own personal journals in July, because last year I started in September and it was not enough time. So I'm feeling a little bit stressed about it, but it's fine, because the thing about this is the stress is my own personal fault, and also I do enjoy the process of setting up journals, and it means I get to set up journals all year long. So bear with as I get a little bit erratic with the setup of these journals. It may be that we'll get a few more videos coming your way with this one, or I might just join things together to make them a bit longer and spaced out, or we might jump ship and do other journals along the way. We'll just have to see how everything lines up. I am obviously aware that I now also have to set up for June in both my reading journal and my everyday journal, which, spoiler alert, I have not been using the latter at all over May very well. So I do wonder if it'll be something that I'll be using next year. I'm not sure. However, June is my birthday month, so I always like to have somewhere to jot down all the memories, all the fun things about June. And obviously June is also extremely hard for me, because that is the month that my dad passed away. He passed away 10 days after my birthday, and 3 days after my mum's birthday, because my mum is a week behind me. And obviously you guys, if you've been around long enough, know my mum passed away in 2024. So June is one of those months where a lot of birthdays happen for us in our family, but equally there's a lot of like overwhelming sadness to the month that we try really hard to celebrate. But obviously sometimes it's just a little bit difficult to do that, and that's fine. But I do like to have the month down. I do like to try and make a point about myself in the month as well. I'm turning 40, which is crazy to say. I cannot believe I'm going to be 40 this year. I feel it in my body though. And so I'm not sure what I'm going to do for it. I would like to make a point out of it, but equally, you know, times are hard. So we'll see. Maybe I'll go out for dinner with my family. That would be nice. Hopefully that could happen, or something along those lines. I'm not really too fussed as long as I actually do something about it this year instead. So anyway, as you can see, we have now almost finished this border. I was having such a hard time trying to figure it out. And we've skipped a little bit just getting to the point where I am now sticking down some of that double-sided tape that I swear by. A couple of episodes ago or videos ago, I used a tape dispenser, what are they called? Tape runner. And yes, it sped everything up, but I absolutely hated the process. I don't know why I have such a vendetta against using them. I just find that I get much more affordability out of a double-sided tape roll, and I can just be as nitpicky as I want to put down so much tape that this is not going to budge. That was one of the problems I was having with the tape runner. I was just constantly having to put even more down. And yeah, it's quite funny how much you waste on one of those tape runners. If you're moving quite fast, how much gets left behind on the roll. And I did buy one that was more expensive than usual. I thought maybe if I buy quality, Nope, I think it's just how I use it. So back to the double-sided tape for me. We have now figured out the border. As you can see on the left-hand side, it is wider intentionally because I want, when you flip the pages over, to still see a part of that page with the decorative element there, because obviously all the tabs are going to float over to that side when I turn the pages. And then on the very last page of that portion, when the tabs are all complete, I will also have this paper there, so it sort of balances out. So either side will have this on it. I just really like this paper. I was trying to look for something blue because I knew I wanted to do blue for this particular spread, but this sort of, I want to say it's like a tan gray kind of color. That doesn't even make sense. Beige, I guess. It's not that. It's more of a gray, but it was really speaking to me. I liked the design. It was very, very subtle and very floral, very vintage looking, and I think it works really well on this page. So I did have issues with, surprise, surprise, the bookshelf as well. One, I used this pen from 𝓬𝓬𝓮. It's one of my favorite colors, 127 if you want to know. But I don't know what's wrong with it. I haven't used it very much, and I started to have issues where it wasn't, you can't really tell on camera, but it wasn't really running. It was almost as if the lid had been left off, but it hadn't been. So I'm not sure why, because the pen is stored up. You know how sometimes with these pens, the ink runs to the other end of where the brush tip is? I don't store them that way. I always store them down for the ones that are in my pen holder here. Otherwise, they are horizontal, so the ink should flow evenly to both ends. So I'm not sure what's happened, but you can see I'm really having to struggle to try and put it down now. The brush end was absolutely fine. You'll get to see in a moment there's no issue with the brush end. So I'm not sure if the nib has something wrong with it, but either way, you can see I'm going back and forth in a minute because I can just really see that it's not the same color as on the other side. And obviously I had to do both sides of the Dutch door to make sure that we had the 8 bookshelves on each side. So each bookshelf can hold 10 books. I think I mentioned that. And I do play around with a very basic sort of change on each shelf so they don't all look the same. I did end up, you'll see when I start to color the books in, I did end up forgetting where I'd put my pencil marks. And so I did mess up what I initially planned out, but it still works really well. I think this will be very easy to use and straightforward. And with the previous page being the reading mosaic tracker, the good thing about that is that the bookmark that I'm going to include with that one, because I couldn't put the key anywhere on that page currently, will be able to sort of shift or float between these two pages if you wanted them to. If you didn't need all 160, we can obviously put the key in that top shelf here, but the good thing is that it can float through. So one side could be all about the key for the book mosaic tracker, and then the other side of the bookmark could be for this. So yeah, making some plans, trying to figure out how to make this all work. So I'm maximizing as much space in the journal for decoration and also functionality, because that's really important to me. Obviously I work in a B5, so this comes with the challenge of trying to make everything fit into an A5 for someone, and I'm really enjoying it. But it has to be said that, you know, you lose a lot of real estate when you're so used to having a larger journal to work with. And that's something that I'm going to have to work with my own personal journal. That is a very light spoiler. I'm sure many people who have been following me now and watched my journal unboxings recently will know exactly which journal I'm using next year. So I don't need to be so secretive about it, but we'll leave that for when I finally reveal my first cover page in that book. Anyway, yeah, it's hard to work in a small size when you're so used to being in a larger size. This year, I'm only using square and a B5 for my main journaling. Obviously, I have 2 A5 journals anyway that are in sort of rotation, one being my blackout journal that I'm using as a gamifying reading journal, and the other being my reviews journal, I guess you could call it. I call it the Books I've Loved journal. That's where I just put down a whole bunch of quotes from the books that I've enjoyed, either a 4.5 star or a 5-star read. And so I do need to catch up on that as well. We're going to have some videos with that soon. But on a whole, I'm working in either a square or a B5. So working in an A5 for this particular type of journaling has been a little bit challenging for me because I'm so used to having a bit more space. As you can see, I held up the box that I pulled this pen out of. This is the brand new 𝓘𝓽𝓮𝓮 monograph pen. And let me tell you, they were very expensive. I did pay for these ones. I purchased them from 𝓤𝓱𝓮𝓮, which is the Australian retailer for 𝓘𝓽𝓮𝓮. If you don't know, I live in New Zealand, and it's extremely difficult unless you do like a group sort of shipping bundle thing with other people to get anything from 𝓘𝓽𝓮𝓮 straight out, because shipping ends up being like 3 times just the price of a journal sometimes. So I shop at 𝓤𝓱𝓮𝓮 because it's a little bit more affordable. I can also use Afterpay, which is very handy for someone who relies on using those systems now and then. And yeah, I purchased these from there. They were $60. I'm not going to hide. I'll be transparent about how much it cost me, New Zealand dollars. $60 for 2 packs each, so 60 each, and then that was including shipping, I think, from memory. And yeah, very expensive for me. I'm not going to lie. I would never, ever recommend anyone spends this kind of money on pens. But if you live in America or Australia, because you won't have to pay as much for shipping, if you live in a place where 𝓘𝓽𝓮𝓮 is affordable or accessible and you don't mind paying a little bit extra. I mean, obviously 𝓘𝓽𝓮𝓮 is naturally a luxury brand anyway, but I would 100% recommend getting your hands on these pens because I tested them for smudging, absolutely none. I tested them for highlighters, so using like a mild liner over top, nothing. So yeah, really, really happy with these pens. They were worth the $60, and I hate that I can say that. They're just really nice to write with. I haven't used them though, aside from the pen test until now. So this journal got to use them before my own journal. I've been sort of hoarding them because they're so good that I don't want to ruin them in any way. And I got the 8-pack. So they come in various nib sizes, and there's also a brush tip, which I'm not like a huge fan of the calligraphy brush tip, but the fact that we've got a 0.03, a 0.05 in this pack as well, so they're very, very fine tips. I was just amazed with it. This one is the 0.3, I think, from memory. It looks like a 0.3 tip to me, and I really, really am happy with how they performed here. And the reason why I use them in this particular journal was because, I mean, obviously I use the artist pens and the microns that I have on my desk anyway, and they're pretty good. Like, they don't smear, but I just wanted to make sure when whoever gets this journal, if they're just using any kind of pens to color in these books, that they don't have to worry about that, because I have had that happen to me in the past when I used another type of pigment liner, and it was heartbreaking, especially when this is a visual page. To have little smears everywhere, I was not having it for this person. So I am using that particular pen, and we are moving now on to the other side of the Dutch door, so we can put in another 8 shelves here with books. So yeah, not a lot of decoration on the shelves. Well, there's none actually. I do come back in a moment and add in some blue flowers. That's where we're going to add in the blue, and also the title is blue. Like I said, I wanted to make sure that there was enough room to achieve the amount of books that needed to be on the shelf for the particular winner. Like I said, we can work with it, but I just wanted to make sure there was enough room, essentially. I would hate to run out of room in a Book Shelfie spread. I always add on extra for myself. I am petrified that I won't have enough for this year. Because my goal was 125 and I'm already like 18 books ahead of my goal now, which is kind of crazy to me. I was supposed to be slowing down on my reading, and that has not happened. So yeah, I would hate for that to happen to myself, so I wanted to make sure that it didn't happen to the winner here. And that is why I've gone in and made sure that there's at least 160 book spaces here. We can add in like a little rolling cart or something cute if the person wins and says, hey, I need a little bit more room. There'll be a way around it, but for now, if you only need it for 100 books, well, then there's 60 more spaces there. Let's put a key on the front if you like and roll from there. I really, really enjoy these shelves though, because they are fun to fill in. The only thing that I forgot to do in this particular video was to colour in the tops where the books are. That's something I always forget to do until the journals started to get used, and then obviously there's this big white gap and a shelf would not be white. So I am off camera going to add in a slightly different shade of brown just to differentiate where the book ends and where the shelf is in the book. So yeah, that is the plan. Otherwise, the spread is ready to go for someone to use. And yeah, it's been really fun to set it up and try something slightly different. I saw a lot of people doing this for 2026, and I thought it was really cool to have like the floating Dutch door, because I've never really focused on it that way before. I've always just done the fold out or just cut the edge off. So yeah, I think this turned out really well. As you saw before, I was using sticker paper to hold down the spine. Like I mentioned, I didn't want that to have an issue at all. There is the very small gap where the pages meet in the middle, where you can see where, you know, we've lost a little bit of real estate from that decorative paper, but I'm not too fussed about it, and I hope that the winner won't be either. Once you get some books on there, you won't even notice that that's a thing. You'll be too busy looking at what's on the shelves. So yeah, that is the plan. Maybe another option for someone who, if they are not needing all this space and they are wanting to add on to the shelf to sort of differentiate, they could put like the first box as January and then put the books after that, and then just do like a book as sort of like a placeholder for the start of the month. So yeah, plenty of options to work with. I think this looks really smart. It's just going to be easy to fill in. You don't even have to put titles on it. You could just put numbers if you wanted to. The key can be anything you want it to be, because I have changed that up. Last year I did, for the last few years, I've done my star rating on my Book Shelfie. This year I'm doing the month, because I am doing the book mosaic, so I didn't track the month in that. But you could if you wanted to in your own book mosaic. So yeah, it's just a really fun little tracking system. We're now working on the header, and you may notice that on my hand, I don't know if people pick up on this, I am sort of like a detail-orientated person. I used to be a doll artist, so I used to be looking up really up close and personal at things that I'm doing. Obviously, I can still do those dolls now, but sort of taking a break at the moment. Anyway, I have a little cut on my hand and a little cut on my wrist. That is from the horses. Nothing bad happened. For some reason, the new buckets that we got for our horses' feed, when I was mixing up their feed, cut my hand open on my knuckle there, and it was fine at first, like it wasn't a problem. And then the next day, it happened again in the same spot. I keep catching it on the bucket, and I was like, why does this hurt so much? And then noticed I was bleeding. And so I've had to be really mindful about not smacking my hand while it's healing. It's almost healed now, because this was filmed last week. But yeah, it was crazy how just mixing up horse feed did that on a plastic bucket. And then the other one on my wrist is just from hay stabbing me, because we are in the midst of winter prep kind of thing. We're in autumn here in New Zealand, and it has gotten colder tremendously over the last 2 weeks, specifically in the last week. And so we're now having to feed out a lot more different feeds, more hay out, you know, that kind of stuff. So the horses are enjoying being rugged up a bit more, but it does mean that we end up doing a lot more out of the horses, and I'm a lot more tired when it comes to the evenings. So doing journaling has been sort of the last thing on my list to do recently, which is kind of a shame because I am getting behind. So I am going to hopefully get some journaling done after doing this voiceover. So we're almost done with the spread. Thank you so much for spending some time with me. We've still got about 6 or so minutes left, but it is a bit of a chatty one, I know that much, and I just wanted to show the whole process because some people like that. Some people like it being, chopped down into a reel and seeing everything within 30 seconds. Other people want to see step-by-step plays. Sometimes it's just sort of trying to find that happy medium, and I wanted to show that this was a little bit tricky for me to figure out, and I did spend quite a long time on it, so I wanted that to be represented in how I shared it today. Because it kind of looked unbalanced at this point, and I was not quite happy with just the one pop of blue. I did pull out these flowers that I got from 𝓤𝓼𝓮𝓭. I'll have them linked below as everything will be. And I just started adding them around the outside of the shelves. I wanted to make sure that I didn't let them fall into the way of the Dutch door, however. So you'll see, sorry, not the Dutch door, the tab system. So you will see that I will end up making sure that none of them sort of fit into that part of the page, because I wanted that just to be straight decoration of the paper, no sticker involved. But yeah, at this point I was like, it's not enough. As you can see, that's what I meant. I was going to make sure that I was not going to end up taking up that space on the side there. So in goes a whole bunch more stickers. I think there ends up being 6. So yeah, this was the part where things were starting to be revealed in Thriller a little bit more, and I was like, taking a little bit more time with my stickers than perhaps I needed to be. Yeah, I want to know if you've gotten to this point in the video, what you're currently reading. I just did a post actually on Instagram pointing out that I have 5 current reads. I think it might end up being 6, but I'm hoping to finish the book in one go. If I want to try and keep my Spotify hours. I was meant to be reading India Holton's new book this month before it got to this point because my Spotify hours roll over tomorrow, but I don't know if I'm going to have enough time to do it today. So, especially when I need to be journaling. So I might just put on one of my audiobooks. So currently I have, like I mentioned, 5 books on the go. I have Listen to the Lie by, is it Amy Tintera? Which is another thriller. Obviously I need to read 3 this month, which is pushing it really. And I'm enjoying it all right so far. I'm about 25% in. And then I've also got The Adventures of 𝓚𝓚 by Shannon Chakraborty, which many of you will know from being long-time fans of the channel if you've been here for a while. It's one of my favourite series. And the new book, The Tapestry of Fate, is about to be dropped. I have the ARC and I'm very behind. So I thought I would just re-listen to it because it's my favourite audiobook of all time. It is so cinematic. I love it so much. So yeah, giving that a re-listen before jumping into the ARC. And I'm going to be honest, I've run out of time to get it done by the 21st, which is when it's due. And so I'm just going to wait for the audiobook to drop and listen to it as well as so tandem read it. So I still can have quotes and stuff to use for my reviews and all that. But equally, I'm just going to have another cinematic adventure, which I'm very excited for. And then I have I got one more audiobook? No. I have You with a View by Jessica Joyce as an ebook. It is a book that I keep putting off. I keep adding it to my TBR and then forgetting to read it or just pushing it aside for other books, and I want to get it done. It's one of my challenge reads for the year and multiple readathons. And then also I have The Dark Lord's Guide to Dating and Other War Crimes by Tiffany Hunt that I started as a physical book a couple of months ago. I really want to get it done. I'm obsessed with it, but I keep putting it off because of ARCs. I really want to just finish it. So I just want to get it out of the way and finish it because it's so good and it keeps haunting me, but I just haven't had time for it. And then the last book is the one that I'm starting, which is my new e-arc, and it's due tomorrow, which is awkward. And it is Between the Rival Courts by Victoria Meir. I hope I'm saying her name right. So yeah, 5 books. Let's see if I can get all 5 done this week. That is the goal anyway. So yeah, that is this video. So thanks for watching and I'll see you soon. Bye everyone.